Hi, my name is Mercy Hodge. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2018. I had surgery, just a mild lumpectomy, mild, but it is better than the mastectomy a lot of the other girls have had. I went through 8 rounds of chemo, lost all my hair, and then I went through 6 weeks of radiation at Tulane Medical Center. My doctors were wonderful. The nurses were even better. At first, it was found out by my yearly mammogram with Amber Naresh, my gynecologist, and from there she sent me to Dr. Jones, the surgeon, and then he sent me to Bridget, Collinsboro, and then radiation through Kendra. Chemo wasn't so bad. It was a great nurse that I had, Missy, kept us on our toes and laughing the whole time. I had great support system. I had both my children coming with me, good friends and cousins, Billy Ray and my cousin Margaret. Chemo was just part of the process and something you just have to go through. So my chemo support group that actually took me was my son Jonathan, my daughter Elena, my cousin Margaret, my sister Emily, and good friend Billy Ray. Good point, Billy Ray is the costume designer for NCIS New Orleans, so he had CC Ponder sign off the hats so we could wear them at chemo one day. So she autographed one of our scarves for us. Whatever family member brought me to chemo, we would go to eat afterwards, and we would have a lovely lunch and afternoon. I did not suffer much through chemo. The new last, on the other hand, was very painful 2 days later. At one of the after chemo lunches is when I met the Unite ladies. They actually sat them down in an empty restaurant. They sat the ladies right next to me, and that's how we met. We all started talking, and it was, a wonderful union. At one of my chemos, my son actually brought me a daiquiri in a coffee cup from IHOP. It was lovely. I really enjoyed that one. And this is my story. I was born in a small town in Cuba. In 1961, at the age of 1.5, my parents escaped communist Cuba to live in the United States. They took only the clothes on their backs. My dad sold his watch to buy a plane ticket to New Orleans to join his brother and American wife. Soon, all my cousins joined us, and we lived a bustling life in New Orleans. Both of my parents worked hard to support us, so I was raised by my grandmother, who I loved very much. She and my parents were loyal to the cultural customs of her homeland, Cuba. I grew up very sheltered and was extremely shy as a child because my Cuban lifestyle was very different from my new American home, very proper and traditional. As a sensitive child, I shied away from school parties because of the expected formal dress when all my friends were in jeans and t-shirts. But eventually I started to adapt to my life in the United States, eventually becoming a citizen in 3rd grade. A few years later, when I turned 12, my life really took a turn when I was no longer the only child and my little sister was born. Taking care of a little one was easy because of my good training from my grandmother. Being the big sister was fun until my world stopped during my senior year of high school. My family was devastated when we lost one of my grandmothers to breast cancer. The woman who raised me in this new country was gone. The one who understood my shyness and loved me for it anyway was gone. Being from Cuba, I had no idea that college was an option. I assumed everyone had to attend. I loved art. I wanted to be an artist. My dad convinced me to study architecture, blending both loves of art and math. So off to LSU I went. It was the best decision ever. I really became my own person by getting out of the house. My life blossomed when I got to LSU. It's the place where I became socially aware. I really became my own person by getting out of the house. My life blossomed when I got to LSU. It's a place where I became socially aware, volunteering for many different causes. It's also the place where I met my best friend. During my senior year, I had volunteered to drive some architectural projects for a contest in Shreveport. With little sleep driving back to LSU, I saw a dog in the middle of the highway. I knew any reaction either way was going to be a problem. I decided to slam on my brakes. I felt the car jump and swerve to the left, hit the barrier, then swerved to the right and rolled down an embankment a few times. I remember opening my eyes and seeing the car crumbled and blood running down my face into my eyes. I closed my eyes again and prayed. When I opened my eyes again, I slowly started to move my body, and miraculously, I was perfectly fine. Not a scratch, no blood. The car was on a shoulder parked perfectly facing the wrong way. I immediately got out and walked around. Not a scratch on the car. I knew then that God made more plans for me. Although I survived the crash, I knew one of God's plans for me was breast cancer, because most of the women in my family faced this curse. It was just a matter of when, not if, I would get the cancer diagnosis. But being the shy and quiet one in my family has been a blessing. Being quiet has made me a good listener. It's my superpower. I have learned a lot from people and their traits by simply listening. It is the listening that may have saved my life. Watching the matriarchs of my family deal with their diagnosis had me stay on top of checkups and mammograms. I was able to catch it at an early stage and manage the treatment in the least invasive way. I have been blessed with good doctors and nurses in my Unite community. I still believe God has plans for me. I'm still here listening.